One of the biggest rating hits of the coronavirus, aside from these briefings, has been a show on Netflix called Tiger King.
Yeah.
And the man who's the star of this is a former zoo owner who's serving a 22-year prison sentence. He's asking you for a pardon, saying he was unfairly convicted. Your son yesterday jokingly said that he was going to advocate for it, and I was wondering if you've seen the show and if you have any thoughts on pardoning Joe Exotic.
Which son? It must be Don.
It was.
I had a feeling it was Don. Is that what he said? I don't know. I know nothing about it. He has 22 years for what? What did he do?
He allegedly hired someone to murder an animal rights activist, but he said that he didn't do that, and he was.
You think he didn't do it? Are you on his side?
Are
you recommending a pardon?
No, I'm not advocating anything.
As a reporter, you're not allowed to do that. You'd be criticized by these. Would you recommend a pardon?
I'm not weighing in on time.
I don't think you would. I don't think you would. Go ahead. You have a question?
I do like Joe Exotic.
I'll take a look. Is that Joe Exotic? That's Joe Exotic.
All right, that was back from April. And the president taking a little bit of time there on the question about Joe Exotic from Tiger King and a pardon. And now it's official, folks. It's official. A petition for pardon, more than 200 pages, has been filed. And here's what it reads in part. Joseph Maldonado Passage respectfully petitions President Donald J. Trump to grant him a presidential pardon for his unjust and mishandled conviction. And then it goes on for 200 plus pages. Also a letter from Joe Exotic to the president, which reads in part, if I've ever looked up to anyone, it would be you. Not because I need you to save my life, but because you stand for what you believe, no matter what anyone thinks. I am begging you to listen to the millions who see the truth. I'm asking you to listen to your own son, Donald Jr., and make this right and grant me a miracle. Allow me to make you proud, to make America proud, to make the world proud. Be my hero, please. Thank you, sir. Joe Exotic. And joining us tonight from Fort Worth, Texas, Joe Exotic Team Tiger attorney, Jeff Hoover. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, let me start here. This is a very high-profile client that you have, Joe Exotic, a very high-profile Netflix series. Do you think that the fact that it's this high-profile, everybody knows about it and has an opinion about it, that could actually hurt Joe's chances at a pardon here?
Well, actually, I think it will help him. The amount of people that watch the show and the feedback that we're getting, thousands of letters have been sent to Joe, and unfortunately, he doesn't have the capability of sending those all out on his own. He sends those to us. We respond, mailing those letters out to his fans, and literally thousands of people are writing him in custody. And I believe that the amount of people that watched the show and viewed it and said to themselves, man, this guy got set up, I think that's only going to work to his advantage.
So why does Joe Exotic deserve a pardon?
Well, I've done this a long time, and I get people asking me many times, how can you represent criminals? How can you do those things? And I always tell them, said, these are just good folks that made a mistake, and, don't look down on them because one day it might be you. That's kind of how I feel about Joe. I believe Joe is a good guy, and I believe he made some mistakes for sure, especially in his actions and behaviors. But had he not been manipulated or coerced into some situations, I don't believe that he would have ever been in this situation. Take all the endangered species and Lacey Act charges away. And those are almost irrelevant. He got 18 years for 2 counts of murder for hire. They threw all those Lacey Act endangered species on at the end, as is not uncommon in any federal or state prosecution, to add on, to make it look like, oh my goodness, this man's such a bad man. Look at all these bad things he did. Even as their own government witness, Dr. Boone, stated, she was asked directly, how many of these cases have you seen in criminal prosecution? And she stated this was the first one.
Now, in the pardon application, he alleges that federal agents and witnesses lied to convict him. What did they lie about?
Well, he certainly firmly believes that the witnesses that testified against him they were there. They only had something to gain by his conviction. James Garrettson is obviously one that comes to mind as far as testimony that he stated. And as a matter of fact, as a side note, Mr. Garrettson has recently retained an attorney. And my understanding is that he has some mitigating and exculpatory information that he wants to get out.
Interesting. Is there any evidence that didn't come into the trial that could exonerate Joe Exotic, that might convince either a judge or the president that, he got a raw deal here?
Well, one example would be the amount of people that did not testify. It's shocking. Ann Patrick, who was with him all the time, almost 24/7 because of his health condition, she would have come in to testify that the $3,000 that was paid for this, this hit on Carol Baskin was actually paid by her through a PayPal account through the zoo. So it was almost as if Jeff Lowe had stamped the payment for that. John Rinke, park manager for 14 years. He knew everything that was happening at the park. Tim Stark, very good friends with Jeff Lowe. Now in the application, the pardon application, in his statement is saying that Jeff Lowe told them, bragged about it, that, we set him up. Joe's a stupid guy. There's a lot of evidence out there that had it been presented at trial, I think it would have made a big difference.
And how about Jeff Lowe? You mentioned him. He got immunity in this whole thing. What do you know about his deal?
Well, I don't know anything about his immunity deal, but I certainly know he seems to skate on drug charges, gun charges, multiple charges, and that's interesting when you look at it in the total picture. As just watching the show, like I've told people before, or people have told me, watching the show, they're like, it's obvious. Well, in the legal side, it's not that easy, but when you do look at it from the big picture, it is obvious that Jeff Lowe came in with an intent to, take the zoo from Joe, and he was going to do it one way or the other. And it started with him and James Garrettson talking with the FBI. That didn't work. They never had any exchange of money. So then it had to come back to the $3,000 that was paid to Alan Glover, who ends up going home, and that money again was paid by Ann Patrick, who would have testified to that.
Jeff Hoover, we're out of time. Hope you'll come back on. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, folks, stay with us. A lot more straight ahead.